Hello and welcome to the Tarkus Zone. Thank you for joining me. Today we're playing Palworld and I'm answering a subscriber's question. There was a couple subscribers who had asked me questions around the incubators. And they were like, well, geez, Tarkus, I see you got a lot of them. How is it that you were able to create so many? Have you guys gimped the server? Have you done something with the server that allowed me to get resources quicker? And the answer is no. I mean, we haven't gimped the server. Yes, we're playing on a private server, but the base normal settings or whatever is default is what is going on with this server. So we haven't used any processes or any loopholes within the process to gain materials within the game. Basically, I've just played the game. So I'm going to answer the question is what you want to do is what's going to slow you down. Let's try to create one right now. What's going to slow you down is a couple items. We'll go to the build process, and here we are. We're just going to put one down here just for the sake of doing it. I would always suggest letting your pals build the item for you. I mean, they're just quick at doing it. But what you're going to need for the process is the blue fragments. You're going to need the cloth. You're going to need some stone. And then you're going to need the ancient civilization parts. Now, the two things that are probably going to slow you down off the bat in the beginning, if you're just starting new, is going to be the cloth and the ancient parts that you're going to need to get. Now you can see right now I've got 238 of them in stock right now. And what I did is I did dungeon grinds. That's basically how I got the parts. Is what I did is when I was walking around the maps, I just indicated with the map markers where the dungeons that I found were. Now, I have linked an interactive map, and I can link that again if that's what people need, that actually shows you where all the dungeons are. It just happens when I walk up to one and find it in the world, I just tag it with a marker. And that's just as easy as putting the cursor where you want, hit E, and then just choosing the marker you want to mark. So there I put a marker down, so then I can delete the marker. So what I did is I used to bounce from dungeon to dungeon. The big two dungeons that I was bouncing from early on were in the starter zone right here. Okay, so right here this is like the beginner area, because the plateau of the beginnings. This is one of the places that you begin the game. There's a big tower right here. Now there's a dungeon right where this marker is. And there's another dungeon right where this marker is. So what you can do is, go to this this waypoint, this fast travel, and then do this dungeon, and then do this dungeon by just running around this little pond here and do this dungeon. And what it is you can do those dungeons whenever, just bounce over there and do the two dungeons. Now, the other thing that got me those parts was I was grinding the world bosses whenever I could. Now, at low levels, and that's probably, where you're going to be, is you're going to have to find some world bosses that are low level. Like this one, same area as these two dungeons you run. You can just run up the hill and get this 11th level world boss. There you go. There's some parts for you. Over here, you got 23 level King Paka boss that you can do. I would wait on this mammoth until you're higher level. Then you got up north here, you've got the 15th level Pen King. Then just over here, you've got the 23 level Catras. So, I mean, you'll be able to grind for those parts. Now, like I was saying, the cloth portion might be, another item that you might not have. So what you want to do is you want to put the ranch down, get this ranch, it's under the PAL icon under the building, put the ranch down, and then you're going to have to go out and get some of those critters that give you the wool, like the lamb ball gives you the wool. There's a couple other critters like the creamus gives you also the wool. And you just run those for a little while, and then you'll get the cloth that you need for the building of this thing. So like right now I've only got 55 cloth. Now I don't do a lot with cloth right now, but if I needed some, I just threw some lamb balls out into one of my ranches. Now the stone's going to be easy mode for you. I mean you just start a stone quarry. You can just get it here. Like my guy's got 800 in the stone pit, and I've got what? 2 stacks of 10,000 and another 2,000 there. So the stone's not going to be a problem, but the blue fragments might be. And as you can see here, I queue them up at 600 a pop. So when you're bringing in stone, just go over to this thing, have a water pet run it for you, and make the fragments here at the grinder. And how you make the grinder is that's going to be under actually, it's going to be under here. It's going to be under production, and it's called the crusher. So you build the crusher. Now you should be able to build that early on because that's an early game item. And once you put the crusher down, just every time you run by it, queue up fragments from the stone surplus. I mean, I've got so much stone over here that I'm just having this guy just moving into the blue fragments because you never know how many you might need. I mean, because a lot of things require the little blue fragments there. So I've got over 1,600 of them right now, and the egg incubator only requires 10, right? So from 10 for that, the cloth, the stone, and then the ancient parts. Now, one subscriber said to me that, we think you're gimping it because you're able to put down more than 5 incubators. And I'm like scratching my head saying, no, the game doesn't limit you how many incubators you want to put out. I mean, that's up to your structure. Now, what I mean by that is you need to make the incubators on platforms that are structurally sound. If you try putting the incubators in a location that's not structurally sound, so what I'm going to do, actually I won't do that because I've got some, actually I will. Let's just go up to the top here. I've got a bunch of eggs here, incubators here. So what it is this tower at the very top, because I've got gaps in these walls, see the gaps that I've made just so that I can see what's going on as I walk up the tower. Because of these gaps I've made, this tower is not structurally sound at the very top. And what I've got here is these are all the eggs that I can put here because incubators. Because no matter where I put another incubator up here, one of these other ones will destroy itself and disappear. Because the structure up here it's not sound. It's basically met its capacity of weight limit on the structure. So again, if I were to plop down an incubator, one of these guys would destroy itself. And I don't really want to do that right now because they're almost at the back end of the process. But the reason why this tower won't support anymore is because of these gaps that I've put in the wall here. And I think it's also because the tower is made of wood. And I wanted it made of wood because I like the look of wood. I like that look. The metal has its own purposes, obviously, because this whole section's made of metal. So when we come down to structuring, you see this is all made of metal. So I can just throw as many of the incubators down as I want. And without concern or issue. Now over here on this terrace here, I capped out the weight limit on it because there's no wall on this outer side. I don't have a wall here supporting that upper terrace, so I couldn't put any more up there. I mean, that's what you've got to look out for. I mean, if you put your eggs on a foundation, which I've done out here, or your incubators on a foundation, you should be good to go to throw as many as you want down. That's what it really comes down to is, the support, how much you supported the structure and what the structure's made of and how many that structure is going to be able to support. So right now, I've got 134 total incubators at this location. I've counted them all up. Every time I add more, I add it to the sign. So we're not gimping the system here. We're not tweaking the server for that. Now, I will say that we do have events on the weekends. Oh, we did have an event last weekend where they reduced the incubation time a little bit, but not dramatically. So that was just to incentivize people to put incubators down on that weekend. But overall, what I've done is just made so many, and I just run them to whatever time. Now, as a server admin, you can change the time of the incubation process to 0 if you want. So it's instant. Once you put an egg in, you hatch the egg. Now, if you want to do that with your private server, you can do that. But Tarkus likes to play a game as close to the core concept that the developers want as possible. So I hate it when people gimp a server. Anytime a server gets gimped, I have problems with that, and I normally move on to another server. The reduction process window that the community decided on, that's not truly a gimp. I mean, you're just incentivizing people to put some incubators or hatch some things during a weekend event time, but more or less, having the standard settings. Now, the standard settings for this game is what we've got. Now, I know you can change the settings from hard to harder core, and I've had that discussion with our community, like, well, do we want to kick the server up to a harder version, like the monsters being harder, the world bosses being harder? And we've had that discussion, but right now we're just basically, we've got the core settings, whatever, the developer team wanted it to be for their game vision. All right, see these fragments are almost done. I mean, this thing makes quick work of it. I think this water pal is a rank 3 water pal, so that makes quick work of it. All right, well, that answers that question, or answers, I think, the subject about the incubators. And I want to thank you for joining me. And this has been the Tarkus Zone.